Have you ever wondered where to invest your money? Instagram or TikTok? If so, you have come to the right place. We as digital marketing managers or experts, we sometimes get the question, right, from clients, from the business itself, or maybe you're a business owner and you might ask yourself this question, or you might be a data analyst, right? And you have to find out where the digital marketing expert should invest the next money into. So the question is good, and it's something that we want to clarify here, and we're gonna have a look at that right now. So let's dive into it. Okay, let me just get rid of this first, and let me show you in a very practical way so you can understand it, calculate it yourself, and be smarter about making decisions in terms of how you invest your money. Okay, so let me just draw this up here. So let's look at Instagram, and let's make a curve for Instagram, and let's look at TikTok, and let's make a curve for TikTok. Okay, beautiful. Okay, what we can see here now is, let's have a look at these axes. So I haven't explained in detail, but this axis here, as you can see, is the ad spend, and the y-axis should depict the return on ad spend. So what does that mean? If the return on ad spend will be high, if ad spend is low. If ad spend is high, like down here, return on ad spend will by nature be low. You've probably run ads quite a bit, and you know exactly when you spend more, return on ad spend is actually decreasing, right? It's basically the law of diminishing returns, which is very natural. There's nothing to be afraid of, right? It just happens. So what do we want to have a look at? So let's just choose a point here. Let's be very practical about it and simple about it as well. Okay, let's say we have a point here. Let me just draw that so it's a bit nicer with my pen. Okay, let's say we have a point here, and let's say that's a budget of 10K that we invest. And let's see what return on ad spend we can get from this. So for this channel, this is the TikTok channel. Let's say we get a return on ad spend is lower, right? So let's say maybe it's 3.5. And then for this channel here, Instagram, let's say we can return an return ad spend of 4 for simplicity reasons, okay? To make it this number. Of course, it will hardly ever be that high, I guess, for Instagram, but yeah, depends what you do, right? Okay, so as you can see, if you analyze the performance here now, you might think, okay, Instagram is a really good channel. I'm returning more than on TikTok, like a little bit more than 10%, 15% or something, right? Let's invest. If your boss comes your way and says, like, let's invest another 10K, let's invest it into Instagram, right? And you might think like, yeah, good idea. I'm seeing really good return ad spend. Let's just, leave TikTok how it is, and let's just invest into Instagram. But the thing though is, this could be quite wrong, to be honest. So if you look at this curve here, you can already tell that the red curve, the return ad spend, in essence, is higher for this year, right? For Instagram, right? So for example, if you spend this part here, like this amount here, let's say maybe 15K or something, or 14K, there's a overlap point where actually the return ad spend, if you measure it on Instagram and TikTok, is same height, right? And if you go even further, and let's say you spend, instead of 10K, maybe 20K, you might even end up here, let's say, maybe that's 20K or something, right? You can even see that Instagram is actually less profitable for your business, right? Let's just draw this over here. Let's say we have a Instagram return ad spend, let's say is a 25% drop from 4. And then let's look at the TikTok overlap point. That's probably around here, right? Okay, so let's say that's a 10% decrease. That would be a 3.15, right? So what can we see here? We can see that, first of all, Instagram had a way steeper reduction in return on ad spend with every dollar we spent. And that's exactly what that formula should tell us. How does return on ad spend kind of like, how do you call it, go, or how does it kind of follow once you start spending more? With each dollar you spend more, how is the return ad spend following? And in this case, as you can see here, with increased spend, let's say we're spending 100% more, it's like 100% more here, right? We can tell that the return ad spend is falling quite steeply, right? Quite steep for Instagram. Sorry, the red line, right? It's more steep, this curve, than the blue one, okay? Now, the thing though is, if you just look at performance for a month or whatever time frame it is, and you look at Instagram versus TikTok, you can only see this number here, 4 initially and a 3.5, and you might make a decision based on this number, but you don't know actually that Instagram has a worse elasticity of ROAS, worse or yeah, a stronger elasticity of return ad spend than TikTok. And you can just tell that by actually looking at the formula, right? So let's make an example here. Let's take a look at the number 4 here. The drop to 3 is a 25%. So we should look at the percentage change of return ad spend. The change is minus 25%. We just said that, right? From 4 to 3. Divided by the change in spend. And that was 100%, right? We increased by 100%. And that gives you basically an elasticity of 0.25. And now let's look at the elasticity of, what is the channel? TikTok, right? Getting confused here. Okay, from of TikTok. So we had a 3.5 here. It went down to 3.15. Means that's a minus 10% decrease. Divided also by the 100% because the spend is the same, right? And that gives me an elasticity of minus 0.1. So isn't that beautiful? Now you have a number here. And so why is that so useful? So if you have the question from your boss who asks you, where should we invest, into this channel or into this channel that has a lower return ad spend, you can tell him straight away, okay, no problem, I can find out, but it's not as clear as it seems. And we have to double check, first of all, based on the investment that you perform. So the higher you spend, right? Let's say you spend 30,000 or 40,000, right, in a channel, then of course the elasticity will be even further, right? There's even more to lose, right? So the elasticity will be the same, but the incremental gains, the profitability will be even further. As you can see, this actually curve is dividing further and further, right? From this one here, it's not drawn very nicely, but in essence, it is. So once your boss comes to you, you can then say, okay, no problem, let me look into it a little bit closer. And if you then see, for example, okay, Instagram has an elasticity, so that was Insta, right? Insta has an elasticity of minus 0.25, and TikTok only has a elasticity of 0.1, minus 0.1, then you have to look into it further, because then you can tell already, okay, boss, we might not be investing everything in Instagram right now because the elasticity of TikTok is actually better, right? And there is a way to actually find out where exactly this point here is, this overlap point that you can calculate. So let's say this is 15K, right? Like 50% increase. Let's say at 50% increase, this overlap point here will hit, or will be, these two charts will cross over, and you can calculate that. So if your boss, for example, wants to increase just by 30%, you can then calculate and say, okay, we can still, invest 30% more into Instagram, because we will still be more profitable than on TikTok. And there's a part to this video that I will share soon as well, where you can actually calculate this point. But just from a first glance, I guess this gives you a really good understanding of spending money into Instagram or TikTok or whatever channel it is. Always has to be taken with a grain of salt. And one more thing that I want to say is, you can apply this rule not only on channels, but you can apply this same logic also to campaigns within a channel. So if you run 2 campaigns in Instagram or 2 campaigns in TikTok and you want to compare them, and they might have very similar return ad spend, but then you want to increase the spend, or you increased it, and the elasticity by increasing it is changing quite significantly, or is quite different, then you can perform the same analysis. It should just make you a little bit smarter in terms of how you think about it. And ensure that the business is actually investing in the right channel. I hope that was helpful. I really love doing this video, and yeah, would be great if you could also share your comments below. I'm always happy to learn myself, and yeah, have a good day.